Hi there, and welcome into our second edition of the Brittany and Chad Show. I'm Chad Anderson.
And
My wonderful wife, Brittany.
Yeah, I'm Brittany Anderson. And hey, guys, we are super excited for today's show. We actually did sort of like a practice run. I kind of decided that we should re-record this episode because I think it's such an important topic, especially given the times. Chad and I really wanted to share a little bit of each of our health journeys and kind of go into some of the things that we've incorporated into our lives, particularly during our time together. We've been together for almost 12 years now, right?
Yeah, February of 10.
Yeah. So, we've definitely come a long way, the both of us, and have had health struggles and wins. And again, during these times when there are so many challenges to our health, and that's our physical health, our emotional health, our spiritual health, I think it's a really good time to kind of dive a little bit deeper into this topic and bring you my perspective as a healthcare provider, but also share, my own struggles. And then, Chad's perspective as he puts it, the patient, and kind of how we both have tackled health challenges and the things that have worked for each of us, given our, we have a lot of similarities, but of course are very different as well.
Yeah. So it's going to be fun, interesting. Hopefully it gives you guys some new ideas and perspectives, and let you know too that you're not quite alone. Sometimes you get on these things and you're like, oh, how, I can't do this, or, this is tough, or whatever the case may be. I think we all go through that. So hopefully these stories, help you with that, help you mentally know that why we do these things, what's on the other side, and how it turns out to be something that is so good, and you may not even realize how good it is because you may not have experienced it before. But something that it's such a great other side of the grind that you go through sometimes with health and weight loss and trying to treat your body well and those things. So hopefully you learned something from this, or get inspired or motivated or helped, or whatever the case may be. But you want to go with yours?
Yeah, I want to share a little of mine, but first I want to give us both a little shout out because prior to recording this episode, it's a little after 10 a.m. and we both worked out this morning. We actually met each other in the garage. Chad was on the Peloton. I decided that I felt like lifting some weights this morning. And so we both worked out. You did like 30 minutes on the Peloton. And
yeah, I was doing 20 minutes for like the first 2 months. And finally, I'll share it in my side, but the gist of that is I got to a certain point where 20 minutes wasn't really doing much for me anymore. Yeah. And you had to force the next level of strain and workout and grind. And so had to graduate to 30 minutes. And eventually, I'm sure I'll have to start doing the 45-minute rides.
Right,
but I'm not there yet. But 30 minutes this morning.
What's that saying? It never gets easier. You just get stronger. So yeah, unfortunately. And I felt like lifting weights this morning. So I just wanted to commend both of us because I know we're going into a busy weekend. Chad has a really exciting weekend. Did you want to share that? What are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm leaving. Who knows when this is released or whatever. But going to the World Series tonight. So going to Game 3. I am not a Braves fan. I'm a Cubs fan. But I have this bucket list in life where you go to the major sporting events like Super Bowl I haven't done, Final Four I haven't done, but I've done World Series, Stanley Cup. I went to the Cubs World Series. Been to the national championship because Alabama always hosts that. But but yeah, so you don't pass up opportunities like this, especially when it's played just 3 hours away.
Yes. So with that, Mom will have a busy weekend chasing all 3 little boys. And of course, it's Halloween. So I have a few little projects for us planned just to kind of keep them occupied. It's kind of gloomy and rainy outside. So I'm thinking we're going to be doing a lot of stuff inside, and wrangling, 3 kids, 5 and under is always a challenge. So anyway, I'm glad that we were able to squeeze in our workouts this morning before getting this done. So,
very proactive this morning.
absolutely.
Very accomplished
we are
morning.
on it. We are totally on it.
Very accomplished morning.
And
yeah.
just so you guys know, to keep it real, like we have an amazing nanny who we could not survive without. She is currently, and the baby's asleep, and then she's occupying the 2 older boys. So it's not like we locked our kids in a room somewhere and we're being negligent parents.
Not this time.
Not this time. We have a lot of help that we're really grateful for, and that allows us to do a lot of the things that we want to do. So I think that really speaks to our ability to take care of our health too, because we have health and help and resources in order to do that.
Yeah. And it helps with sanity.
Absolutely, which is part of health. So I'll go ahead and share a little bit about my health journey and try to keep it brief, because I think a lot of the reason that I became a nurse practitioner and have kind of gone into functional and integrative medicine and really looked at root causes of chronic disease is because I really struggled as a kiddo. I had chronic ear infections as a little one. I have very vivid memories of my eardrum rupturing and being in extreme pain. Like I literally have a memory of being like 3 years old and having to go to the emergency room and get a shot of penicillin in my butt because I was, like in so much pain and they couldn't get me to take anything orally because I was hysterical. I vividly remember that, and I had a needle phobia basically until I went to nursing school. So anyway,
I remember getting shots in my butt and then telling my mom I could do whatever I wanted because she couldn't spank me. That was the cool thing. Like that was the benefit of it.
I do not, recall having that reaction. But so all that is to say, I was on an antibiotic for an ear infection probably at least once a month as a kiddo. I was also a swimmer. I started competitively swimming when I was 5, but I had ear infections, of course, well before that. And I think I had ear infections like pretty consistently until I was probably like 8 or 9. And actually we stopped swimming around that time. So, that significantly helped things, of course. But the impact that had on my microbiome, which if you guys aren't familiar, we all have a microbiome. Our skin has a microbiome. Of course, the most well-known is the gut. And, it gets disrupted by things like stress, by antibiotic use, by other medication use. And that has an incredible impact on our immune system. We know that 70 to 80% of our immune system is actually in our gut. So, there are so many things that will influence that, and it has a direct impact on our health. So all that is to say, not only was I chronically on antibiotics, I also, my mom gave us skim milk, I think 3 times a day, like with every meal. So we were doing a ton of dairy and like highly processed, of course. Like I don't think organic was really, maybe it was a thing back then in the like.
I thought processed was like cool.
I mean, yeah, like in the 90s, like, yeah, processed is cool.
Yeah.
My mom was like pretty well educated. She was a nurse. And so she, of course, followed like the recommended, like the food pyramid, like the USDA guidelines. You have your 5.
Yeah, that one makes sense.
Yeah, your 5 to 7 servings of whole wheat bread a day. And you've got milk with every meal. And like she was doing all the right things.
Well.
Yeah. Right, exactly. So, that probably it did directly contribute to my health issues. I was a pretty healthy kid other than the ear infections, but I was really overweight. And, that was something that most of my family, especially on my mom's side, my dad's side too, but especially on my mom's side, that was a big issue. It's a family of like predominantly women, like almost all women. My mom's got 3 sisters and there's 7 granddaughters. So all women and all having weight challenges for the most part. And so the story in our family, of course, was, we just have the fat gene, like over and over and over. That's what I was told. We just have the fat gene. And then I was constantly fed this message of, you just have to eat less and work out more, and it's basically that you don't have the willpower to lose weight. So these are messages that I was receiving as a super, super young little girl, and seeing, my mom struggle with it and always talk about it. My aunts talking about it, my grandmother talking about it. So anyway, it was just really interesting that here she is thinking she's doing all these incredibly healthy things, which she was. We weren't allowed to have soda. We didn't have chips in the house. We didn't have candy and like that kind of stuff, but we had some pretty highly processed food products that were marketed to her as really healthy. And you guys, even to the point where friends would come over to my house and we wouldn't have like the normal snack. Like we didn't have Cheetos and Oreos and all that stuff in our house. So they would go 2 doors down to my best friend's house and go raid her cabinets to get snacks, right? And then they'd come back to my house, and it's so funny because her family, they also had 3 girls. They were all really thin. And here we are, you know, all my sisters and I all have struggled with our weight as well. And we eat pretty healthy. Supposedly we don't have a lot of those products. And we're really struggling with weight. I mean, I by the time I was, I don't know, maybe 10, I was wearing like a size 13 in like women, like shorts. And, you know, it was a really big struggle for me. Not only that, but I was also like 5'4" when I was like 10 years old. So I was like a big kid. So I was horribly teased. I mean, I still can remember like the taunts from the little boys in my classes all through elementary school. So there was a lot happening there. And so, you know, as I got older, I really started to focus more on trying to seek, okay, well, what is it that I am missing? Because the whole like not eating all day and trying to like eat fewer calories and then just work my butt off in my workouts is not working. Like that's not sustainable. It's not working. I'm not losing weight. What is it that I am missing? And I like think back and I just like, I wish I would have known anything about nutrition back then so that I could show, you know, the little girl who is struggling so badly, like, hey, no, we need to eat whole foods. Your body probably doesn't need dairy with every meal and probably doesn't need it at all, especially the non-fat milk. And we need to rebuild your microbiome. We need to focus on decreasing stress, like all of these things. And honestly, it has been such a crazy journey. I honestly really didn't kind of master what worked the best for my body until I think Chad and I were already married before I really kind of figured out the secret sauce. And that's not to say like once you figure it out, like that's it forever. Your body goes through seasons and cycles, and I've had babies, and you know, I'm really happy to say that I have been able to get really in tune with my body and figure out what works in each of those seasons. And but it's been such a journey. And this also, you guys, I was a college athlete. So I look back like, oh man, my performance would have been so much better if I would have had any clue about how to nourish my body appropriately in college. And man, maybe I would have really been a superstar in the water polo world. I don't know.
Olympian.
I don't know. I definitely didn't have the talent for that, but I sure as hell was a hard worker and, you know, was able to get a college scholarship. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, I didn't know anything about nutrition. And unfortunately, I didn't really have anyone guiding me even then. So it was like so much having to dig and learn, and certainly not anything that I learned in my, you know, education as a nurse practitioner. We really don't go into nutrition at all. Definitely didn't learn that in any of my undergrad nursing courses as well. So I've really had to seek this knowledge and try things out and just learn over time. And it's been a long, painful at times journey, but super rewarding to finally kind of figure it out.
Well, there's it's insane to me. I mentioned this on our first take of this episode. Talk about, you know, processed is cool and we're just following the pyramids and all those things. That's what we saw growing up. Like I remember in science class in elementary and middle school, like seeing that stupid poster. Yeah. And I was pissed off because like the Reese cup bucket was at the top instead of at the bottom of the pyramid.
Well, absolutely.
You know? Yeah. I mean, well, it found out it didn't really matter because all that other stuff's so bad for you too. But I remember one thing that like registered in my head, and I don't know, I'd been dating, I guess less than a year. I wasn't even with you, but at the time, like as far as when I saw this image, but I remember you talking about certain kinds of things and starting to get me to think in different ways and like understand and have different perspectives. And I remember seeing a photo. I swear I can't remember where it was. I would say magazine, but that sounds so ancient that you would see a picture in a magazine. Yeah. So I don't remember where I saw it or what it was, the setting, but I remember looking at it and it was 2 people in a field in a hazmat suit. and they were spraying, and they were spraying crops. And I want to say it was like maybe tomatoes or something, or some kind of fruit. I don't remember exactly what they were spraying, but the whole point was they were sitting there in hazmat suits spraying the food that was going to be later picked up and then processed and then sent to grocery stores for us to go buy and eat. It's like, why do they have to wear a suit, like a hazmat suit,
Right.
as if they knew COVID existed before it existed, and then spray it on top of the food we're going to consume? And from then on, and trust me, I'm not like the perfect eater. I still have my weak moments. We all do. You know, I still like my junk foods, but on occasion, I'll talk about that in just a minute. But just seeing that, it opened your eyes to, holy crap, like, what am I truly like putting into my body from a chemical standpoint, and what is it doing to me
And what is it doing
at that point?
Yeah. I think that is like such a great point. And, you know, the chemicals, the pesticides are not only killing pests, you know, to produce more yield because that's more profitable and, you know, produces, you know, more crops, whatever. That kills the bacteria in your gut. Like I said, going back to the microbiome. So we are ingesting this stuff. It's not only killing, you know, off bugs, but it's killing off the bugs in our gut that we depend on for our health and for our immune function. So yeah, it really makes you think. And, you know, if any of you guys are hearing this and you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm kind of just hearing about this for the first time. I mean, honestly, you guys, if you haven't heard any of this, like I just encourage you, like it's time to really step into this and start exploring for yourself. And the Environmental Working Group is a great place to start. EWG.org, I believe, is their website. You can go, it talks about like the crops that are most heavily treated with pesticides. So the ones that you are encouraged to shop organic versus the ones that you can buy conventional because they don't tend to have the highest traces of pesticide residue. So lots and lots of resources there. But yeah, I mean, to Chad's point, it is absolutely terrifying what we're doing to our bodies via our food. And what's crazy is other countries don't allow this. It's really the United States that does this. And in fact, like the most popular pesticide, glyphosate, which is sprayed on everything, also known as Roundup, is being banned in Mexico. It's being banned all over the world because...
You know when Mexico bans it and we don't?
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, right?
I mean, it's a known carcinogen. Like we know it causes cancer. It's causing all kinds of health issues. And we are continuously spraying it on all of our crops. So yeah, it's pretty scary.
I didn't know about the like processed stuff either, and like the breads and different things until Brittany and I went to Europe in December of 2014. We went to Europe 2 weeks over Christmas. We flew back in. That was a crazy story. If you want to know how much of a fan I am of Alabama, this is tangent here, but just so people understand. We go on a 2-week trip to Europe over Christmas from like the 15th through the 31st, somewhere in there. We visit 3 countries. We fly back in on New Year's Eve on the 31st. Well, Alabama is playing in New Orleans in the Sugar Bowl in the college football playoff. First time ever there's a playoff, and it's the semifinal. We land that morning. I started my day in Paris. I ended my day via New York to Nashville, got off in Nashville. Brittany drove home. I went and rechecked in and got on Southwest to fly from Nashville to New Orleans for New Year's Eve to go to the semi the next day. So just so you understand, it's not bandwagonish or fair weather. Like it's an obsession.
I had forgotten about that. My God. Yes.
That was a long day.
That was, yeah.
Yeah. I went from Paris to New York to Nashville to New Orleans. Anything that had the new in it, I guess, is where I went that day or started with N. But that was crazy. That was a crazy day. But going back to that trip was we get over there and I didn't realize this. And, you know, I will eat healthy about 85% of the time.
Yeah,
that's a
I'd say so.
good percentage. And so we get over there and Brittany's like, hey, for lunch, do you want to just get like a baguette and some prosciutto and some cheese and some wine and grapes and stuff like this? And we literally sat on a curb in a parking lot in Switzerland and ate. That was our lunch, and it was fantastic.
was
That was
so
like one of
good.
the best things. And this was out of a convenience store, by
Right.
the way. Okay,
Yeah.
like their 7-Eleven, and it was amazing. And I was so confused. And she told me, she said, "I'll eat the bread over here because it's not like back home, where it's processed and has the junk and all the things that they do to it." And so I had no idea, and that was kind of the first time I even realized other countries recognize that and say these are our qualities versus what the United States does on so many things. And that was very eye-opening. I was completely caught off guard with that.
And I'm sure you noticed this because you're more of the financial guy, but food costs in other countries, particularly Europe, are significantly higher. Like they know to dedicate more of their income towards food costs because the quality is so much better. Whereas here, we are the kings of the world as far as producing mass quantities of really cheap processed food. Like that's what we do here in the United States. So it's super cheap to get a bag of Cheetos and, get all these things that are so, I mean, they're not even foods anymore at that point. And it's the fresh whole foods that are more expensive, and that tends to be the opposite in a lot of places. So, just another thing to think about, like we, especially right now, everyone is really complaining and concerned about the cost of food going up. But in other countries, I think in some places they spend about double what we do on their food just because of the quality.
It's very, very interesting. One thing I was really annoyed about, and you go over to Europe, I love coffee. I mean, I have a romantic relationship with coffee.
I would say we
And
both do. I
We
got
do,
you
but I'm-
into like the fresh grinding every day.
Yeah, we literally grind the beans every morning. But I'm so far ahead of you as far as consumption. Like, it's not even close. It's probably a 2
I'm
to
also
1.
breastfeeding, and I have been pregnant like for the last.
But
5
it's always
years.
been the case. I just, it's like water to me. I don't drink anything else until about 1 o'clock.
Great.
But
Don't do that.
yeah, that's. Remember that 15% we talked about a second ago? Like, that's the unhealthy portion. So on the, you lost my train of thought now. On the, what were we talking about?
But coffee. What, were we talking about coffee?
Well, we were. That's how it got going. Now I'm thrown off.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I remember now. It's back to Europe. Is you don't walk up and get a venti
No,
for $5.
that's not a thing. And
No.
they're like, "What are you talking about?"
No, I go up and get what I think is a coffee, and they hand me this tiny little cup.
Yeah, because that's how you're supposed to drink coffee.
Literally a tiny little cup, like it's as if I put my two hands together and asked for some like food, and I'm homeless and starving or something. Like it's that small amount of
it's like-
coffee,
like
and
an
it's still
espresso.
$5. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? So I that was a complete nightmare. I went into one place in Germany, like coffee, and I don't know German. I was just trying to like, the black stuff over there. Can I have some? They didn't serve it. She freaked out on me because Germans are a little harsh. And then I went next
Seems
door.
like a big generalization, but okay.
It is a generalization, but I mean, she was just unfortunately not kind. So we go next door, and that's where they actually have the coffee. It's more like a kind of their version, I guess, of a Starbucks, but it wasn't very good. And yeah, same thing. I'm like, get this tiny little cup. And I'm like, can I just have 8 of them?
So now
I
Chad's
just
going to
have 8
hold that
coffees?
against Europe and Europeans for the rest of our lives, just so y'all know.
Yeah, I'm like, I need 8 of these dumped into one big cup. Do you have anything like that? So yeah, it is interesting, but
So do you want to walk us through kind of your health story and
yeah, sure. So
everything?
yeah, I mean, growing up, we grew up same timeline. I mean,
Chad is older.
Yeah, I knew that was coming. I'm 1 year older, 1 year and 1 month older, I guess, 13 months older than Britt. So anyway, growing up, it was kind of the same thing. It's processed foods, bread all the time, cheeses, grilled cheese, hamburgers, hot dogs. But I was extremely picky as a kid, like super picky. In fact, there's a conversation for another day about me screaming and crying at 4 or 5 years old because at Thanksgiving I wanted frozen pizza. and they've got it on video. So that's a whole nother story. But yeah, I wanted frozen pizza because I don't know everybody who's listening here, if you're from the South, we have some of the most screwed up concoctions of what's called a holiday dish that you've ever imagined. Like if you go to a true Southern,
Yeah.
like Thanksgiving or Christmas, it's crazy.
I'll never forget looking down and seeing pineapple and cheddar cheese and like crackers in a dish and thinking, what is this?
You should have seen Brittany's face when my grandmother made chocolate gravy one time. Chocolate gravy, pineapple and cheddar. Everything's a casserole.
Everything. Yes.
All of it. All the things are casseroles.
Except the turkey. Well, yeah, except the turkey.
Yeah, country ham, with the red eye gravy. Yep, that's there. I mean, there's more salt in that pan than the Dead Sea. It's insane. Like all these things that are the old Southern stuff. And I didn't like any of them. I really didn't. I mean, yeah, I wanted frozen pizza instead, so I'd lose my mind. But that was growing up, kind of how it was. And about middle school is when weight started catching up with me. Like I was kind of like just your regular kid, like average. Wasn't like super skinny, but I wasn't fat or anything up until like start getting into middle school. And then I started doing like, okay, it's, a little bit heavier or heavier than what you should be. It was never obese, but it was always just like fat, almost like a 14-year-old with baby fat all over him. Is a good way to describe it, I guess. Like, just chunky. And so you get to high school, and finally one summer decided I'm going to start running and just start eating better. And eating better in my head then, because this is how we were taught, you're simply counting calories.
Right.
So I'm running. I built it up to where I would do 3 miles at a time. Would get up and run before school, and would eat things like, just grilled chicken breasts. I still avoided vegetables at that time. Still hated them. Just didn't. So I would go like with the clean proteins is what I would do. And then I was hoping too that you just keep running. And I did cut out sodas. I cut out sodas around 16 or 17. Which is such a
huge source of calories that people don't necessarily think about it because you're drinking it. And like, I'm just so impressed that you found that yourself. And like, what do you think was the catalyst? Do you think it was like you were getting
to me, it was the calories.
But do you think that you were like starting to get interested in girls and that was like the initial motivation, or like how
no, I
did
was tired of being picked on.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't like going to PE and then like you change in the locker room to go play basketball or go outside or do whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
Because I could actually play. Like that's what I love is people kind of look at me and they're like, you can't play sports. Like I actually can play a few things. Like I can play some basketball. I'm not fast. I can just shoot. Like I play golf now. I could play baseball up until about high school. Played some travel ball. So like I could play and be in those circles, but everybody was so much more athletic or stronger than I was because they did those kinds of things where they ate a little better or they worked out a lot, that type of stuff. Mm-hmm. I didn't. So, but that was it. You go into the locker room and I was always in the corner like, all right, is everybody gone? Now I can take my shirt off and change back into my clothes and stuff like that. And so that's what we would, was kind of the catalyst, like you said, for me. So I did that over a summer, lost a bunch of weight, probably like 20, 25 pounds over a summer, eating clean, running, doing all those things, cutting out the sodas because I was so hooked on I didn't look at the carbohydrates. I just looked at the calories. And so I would look at certain things and I see the calorie count. And that's where I noticed on the sodas were like, man, I don't know what it is, but there's 200 calories in a can of Mountain Dew. And when I would go over to my friends' houses, like we would stay up late, we watch TV, we shoot pool, we play ball, we do whatever. And the whole time there's a fridge stocked with Mountain Dew. And I mean, you play video games for 4 hours, you can plow through 6, 7, 8 Mountain Dews, no problem. And so that's where it really started registering for me. And from that point forward, though, I've always, and so that's almost 20 years now, I've always been a yo-yo. Like, I would do well for a portion of the year. And then I would...
And then football season.
Yep. And then I would fall back. Yep. So in this case, I went to college. And then, so first year in college, well, yeah, football season, plus it's just college. Like it goes haywire, end
So
up gaining
much
the 15 or
alcohol.
20
Yeah.
back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't drink till 21.
Of course not.
I didn't drink till
Absolutely
21.
not.
Yeah, none of that was mine.
I think I was handed a beer as I like set foot onto campus for the first time. Like, yeah.
That's the way it goes. I didn't drink it though. I just passed it to the next
Absolutely,
person.
right.
Yeah. So then we go to throughout college, kind of the same thing. Like one year I'd get into working out and actually lifting weights because I did things with the athletic department. So same thing. You kind of wanted to do the things they did. So
Like
you
that
weren't like the
positive peer
outsider.
pressure,
Yeah,
yeah.
so you weren't the outsider. So we did that. And then after 6 months, fall back off, and then do something else and do something else. And it just kind of yo-yoed. Again, this is a yo-yo for years where 3, 6, 12 months, you're doing well. And then 3, 6, 12 months, you're not. And then you got to just start all over again. So we started working out, like truly working out for the first time when we were preparing for our wedding. So for like a year up to the wedding, we would get up and go work out at 5:30 in the morning. And that was awful just because it was so early. I mean, I'm fine with working out, but that
Yes,
5,
but we got
5:30.
it done. And
we
back
did.
then our schedules, like we had to get it done.
That was our only option, yes. And so we did it, and it was fine. And I will say, like, that was cool later because as I worked out, I kept going to that trainer. So I'm not a CrossFit guy because I don't like the group thing. I still get the PTSD from like standing in the corner, taking my shirt off. And so same thing, like I don't work out as fast as others. So I hate being last and I'm competitive. So that's why I didn't enjoy CrossFit. But a lot of people love it in the community
whereas
and everything.
I loved it. It reminded me of
Yeah.
being in community with my college teammates. Like I love that competitive aspect. I love everybody lifting each other up. So that is something that really changed my life, and I know changed the trajectory of my health for the better. But I totally understand where you're coming from as well.
So I liked working out. I just wanted the one-on-one. So I got the same trainer and worked with him for a few years. And what was cool was if you went back to the very first time I stepped in the gym, like I remember a workout where he was saying you have to do this many, I think it was squats, and you can take a break if you want, but you cannot set the bar down. So if you take a break and don't squat, okay, maybe you're not squatting, but the bar is still on your back, which is still causing exertion and you're tiring out. So like it would get to the point where I would just outsmart him and I would flip the bar into a different position so it wasn't hurting me as much. Like I would front rack the bar
Always
and just
the
hold it.
strategist.
Yeah, always hold it.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was front squats and I would throw it over my shoulder and hold it on my back. But you went from that guy, he took me from that guy to now, and I haven't lifted. I've switched more to cardio in the last year and a half. But the last time I was like working out and in that phase, he got me to a deadlift of, I think it was 425 pounds, a squat of 325, and the bench press of, I want to say it was 215 or 225, which there are a lot of people who can do a whole lot more, but I couldn't bench. Like my max before that was like 140, and I got up to 215, 225, whichever one it was. So going from not being in the gym at all, having no idea, to doing that. And one thing I learned is you cannot outwork your diet. And Britt said earlier,
Absolutely.
you have 70 to 80% of our nutrition's in our gut. And I would get annoyed and frustrated because I would work out and I'd say, okay, well, I didn't eat that bad today. Why am I not losing weight? And then that would be the answer, is that you truly can't like outrun it or outwork it. The majority of us can't. Maybe if you do, then you're a one-off, but overall, you can't do that. And so changing the way I've eaten in the last, what is it now? This is almost November when we're recording this. So 20 months, 19 months. In February of 2020, I weighed more than I ever have, which was 227. And so I was finally, and had the birthday weekend, and it was like, okay, ate my junk, ate my cookie cakes I have to order by myself.
Yeah, I refuse because
She
they are
will not.
so
All right.
loaded with processed crap.
It's
I
awful.
refuse to participate in
It's
that.
awful
If he
for you.
wants one, he can
It's
order
my
it for
vice.
himself.
It's my vice. I did call Great American Cookie one time on my birthday. I said I'd like a cake. They said, what would you like it to read? I said, happy birthday, Chad. She said, "Great. Who's going to pick up the order?" Chad. What's the name on the credit card? Chad. Like,
I'm sorry. I will not do.
Literally
I will
did
not
that.
do it. I
Literally
will
did
order
that.
you a really good whole ingredient cake from anywhere with all the sugar you want, but I will not participate in that situation.
Yeah. So anyway, we went through that, and but that's what I weighed, and at that point, I was like, all right, got to do better, get better. Plus, realized I had some high blood pressure issues, so obviously didn't want to die of a stroke. So it was like, all right, we got to figure this out and start taking care of myself a little bit better. Get on the right track and figure out something that is more permanent and sustainable. So what I've done is I really do well with intermittent fasting. Like I'm not 100% by the book. For example, like this morning I was really hungry, so I ate 2 chicken sausages. And technically you're not supposed to, but I didn't sit down and have a whole meal.
You also don't need to do it every single day. Like, you need to listen to your body.
Yeah, correct. That's what I mean. Like, I'm starving. I'm not going to punish myself and wait 4 hours. I needed something. Otherwise, my morning was not going to be productive. I for sure couldn't go get on the bike and do cardio that hard without having something on my stomach as well. So anyway, that's one thing that I do that I like. I pick out days where I'm like, okay, I'm going to, if I'm in hardcore mode, okay, for this 2 weeks, I'm going to be really strict. I'm not going to do anything, not going to give in. I'm going to do this. We had a catered chef for Brittany's birthday back in March. I didn't cheat at all. I had like an entire side meal. I didn't get any cake.
Which
I didn't
was
drink alcohol.
About
I didn't do
it was
anything.
Delicious.
No, it was amazing. I sat there and watched everybody else eat, and it was unbelievable. But you got to make the sacrifice to stick to it. But fast forward to today, I'm getting dressed, and right before we started, because tonight it's going to be pretty cold in Atlanta for the game, so I was getting some of the clothes out that I haven't worn in a year, and I started at 227 19 months ago, 20 months ago. Today I was 195, so 32 pounds total, and it is a slow progression. Like, don't get discouraged. It's completely worth it. It's a long journey. You can do it in intervals, like get 10 or 15 pounds off, chill there. If you need to take a little break, get another 10 off. But that's why I say you got to pick your time. So I was saying 2 weeks I was really strict, or 4 weeks you're really strict. And then, for the next 2 weeks, be 80% strict. And have some sort of movement. It's in moderation.
It has to be a lifestyle too. It cannot be these like fad diets
not Atkins.
Yeah, well, I mean, if that works for you, great, but it still has to be like a lifestyle that you adopt. Is when people, try some modality. A lot of these things really do work, but then when you go back to your old habits,
that's what I mean
right?
by it is don't do Atkins, get to where you want, and then you get off Atkins.
Right.
Like, that's not going to work.
But I also think it has to be about something bigger than just like your physical appearance. And I think that a big catalyst for both of us to like re-examine our practices and like what we were doing to support our health was losing my dad, right? And you lost my dad, who you were close to. He like very suddenly passed of pancreatic cancer. I mean, it was like 6 weeks and he was gone. And then you lost your granddad. He had diabetes and dementia, and so I think it really forced both of us to pause and just think like, okay, like we have 3 little boys. We want to be able to run and play and be super active parents. What are the things that we need to do? And, your blood pressure was creeping up. That was concerning to both of us. So it kind of felt like the right time. And this is like going into the pandemic. So this was like the right time to kind of make some of those changes. And that was the motivation. And yes, it's been a bonus that you feel better. Your clothes are fitting better. You need new clothes. But
that was a thing this morning. I'd come upstairs. I'm like, nothing fits.
Yeah.
None of my pants, and which is cool and it's fun. And that is a nice result from everything we've been going through and working towards. But like Britt said, feel so much better. Like, I wake up, I don't feel like crap. You eat something, you don't feel like crap. You don't feel like crap for 2 days where you're just like bloated and rolling around and just thinking, oh my God, why did I do that to myself? I used to have asthma. Maybe I still do, but I don't ever use my inhaler anymore. And so I don't have like trouble breathing. Allergies are better. Sinuses are better. Like I still have the attacks here and there, but it's from pollen and seasons and changes and weather. And it's not necessarily correlated to food like it was at one point. Like
Yeah,
I
it's
would eat
not
ice cream.
constant.
Yeah, I would eat so much ice cream sometimes that as soon as I would eat it, my nose would instantly stuff up. And Brittany's just sitting there going, why did you do that to yourself? Like, it's so good. But you got to make that decision. And I still eat ice cream, but I just can't do it as much as I was doing it. And so those things, though, you feel so much better. I sleep better. The kids are obviously an important thing. I like to be able to go coach baseball, go play golf, go get on an airplane today, spend all day like packing, traveling, getting in Ubers, going to hotels, going to ball games, and then at the end of the day, I'm not tired, or maybe I am tired, but I feel okay. All I am is just I'm tired because of what I went through. I'm not tired, and my body feels like crap, and you can get through those things, and so it's a huge, huge piece of it. But I will say, if I can do it, then anyone can do it, because Brittany always makes fun of me from when we first started dating, and like what I would eat or what I would do or how picky I was.
Getting him to eat. I mean, he eats kale now, you guys. Like, we have come such a long way.
Yeah.
And
Had kale Caesar yesterday.
yeah, but I will say I credit Chad. I think, it's been really cool through our relationship how we have like made each other better in our respective careers without necessarily intending to. Like when Chad and I started dating, he was still using his rescue inhaler for his asthma
all the time,
every single day, at least once a day, which if you know anything about asthma, like you're supposed to use your rescue inhaler for emergencies only. And the issue being that if you kind of get desensitized to the medication, like it might not work in an actual emergency situation. But he, didn't really like using oral steroids. I think you were taking like allergy meds every day too, just to try to get it under control. So that was kind of because I was in grad school at the time when we really started to dive into it. And that kind of got me really interested in root cause medicine and functional medicine. Like, what can we do to help support his body so that asthma is not such a huge issue? And again, like I mentioned in the beginning, with the microbiome, with me having so many issues with the ear infections, and I truly believe that contributed to my issues with weight and energy and all of that. Like, I had to heal my gut. So it was kind of the same thing with Chad. We had to heal his gut. He did some pretty strict elimination diets where he cut out wheat, gluten mostly, and dairy, and really went low sugar or no sugar. And because his gut could heal, and he, started eating vegetables and really feeding those good bacteria in his gut, like his asthma symptoms, really significantly decrease, allergy symptoms decrease. And I mean, I can't even tell you the last time he used his rescue inhaler. Like, we have to go dig it out just to have it in case he needs it.
I know exactly where it is right now. And the only reason is because I'm getting on a plane in an hour and a half or an hour 45, because I have, it's more of a claustrophobia issue. So I don't like tight spaces. And the only seat that was available on this flight, because I booked it last minute, was a window seat. So I don't have anybody, on both sides, but I have that problem of I get pinned kind of into a corner. Yeah. And so the inhaler's there in case I start getting worked up, need to chill out, can't breathe, start getting some anxiety, things like that. But that's, and maybe that's completely wrong and I shouldn't do that. But it's like it's a kid's blanket or something, that
I would like you to not have an asthma attack on the flight. I think that would be, especially because you'll be, masked and all of that.
Oh, I forgot about that. I got to get one. Yeah. I forgot my mask.
For all of you who are listening and maybe thinking, oh my gosh, this sounds really overwhelming. Like, I am not as healthy as I would like to be. Like, I'm feeling called to make some changes, but I don't even know where to get started. I want to say just the fact that you're even having like that inclination, like that's super positive. And I encourage you to think about like your reasoning beyond like wanting to look good. Like, it's cool if you want to look good in your swimsuit, for next summer. But think about something that's a little bit bigger than that. When you truly experience health and how good your body can feel, like you are never going to want to turn back from that. And I think that that has to be like the overall motivation, because, you know, focusing on these like very external, like the way you look, I'm sorry, but that is like a short period of time. Like we're all aging, we're all going to get saggy, and, you know, like that's not going to, your beauty is not going to hold up forever. And so it has to be about something more than that. So I encourage you to like kind of start there. But then from there, like think about ways to maybe add things first, like add more veggies to support the microbiome. Start looking at ways that you can get more whole foods into your diet, because when you focus on adding more of those things, there's not a lot of room for the processed crap. Like Chad mentioned, like when he was first getting started, just looking at like the clean proteins. If you actually consume enough protein, which I harp on this all the time, I will do an episode probably like very focused on nutrition because I'm such a big advocate, but really we should be working towards about 1 gram of protein per like pound of ideal body weight, which is a lot more than most people are eating. If you have no idea what that is, like for a woman, I would say that's about 100 grams of protein a day. A man, probably closer to 150, and that's like minimum. Focus on like lots of leafy greens, focus on maybe cutting back on the sodas, but adding lots of water or teas or things like that. Maybe not all the coffee like Chad likes, but that's like the easy basic stuff. And then again, I'm probably going to harp on this on another episode, but if you are not sleeping well, like sleep is king. It is so crucially important. And because we are all so connected to our phones and our tablets and computer and everything, it's really disruptive to our circadian rhythm and our sleep. And so if you can get your sleep under control, that helps with hormonal balance, that helps really regulate so many functions in your body. And that really needs to be like held as important. Even I would say it's more important than even regular movement. Do that and then start adding more whole foods to your diet. And I think that's such a great place to start.
Yeah, it really is. And what you said is so true. After you work out or like doing the Peloton this morning, or, you know, you eat well and you get to a certain weight, or you hit a milestone or something like that, you feel so good. I love that just worked out feeling where your body is like a little tired, but you're like, yeah, I just did that. Mm-hmm. And it's such a good feeling and a sense of accomplishment and reward. So that also just helps from the motivational side. Like when you do that and you do it enough, you miss it and you start to feel guilty when you don't do it. And when you try to check out or not do it for a day. And it is okay to take a break, but when you don't do it for multiple days or a week, or you start to get behind,
your body misses it, because our bodies
they crave it.
Yeah, our bodies were designed to move all the time. And that doesn't mean you have to go do an hour workout. That could mean you go for a 15-minute walk, but our bodies were designed to move. And it's
harder this time of year.
For sure.
Because it gets darker. Daylight savings time sucks. It gets, or the end of it sucks. It gets colder. And the days are shorter. The holidays are here, so there's more temptations in front of you. There's more reasons not to do it. And you get busy and you get into travel and all these things. So planning is crucial when you step into this time of year. And just don't get behind the 8 ball when you get into November and December.
For sure.
So,
for sure.
Anything else?
I think that's it. I think we covered a lot this episode. Thank you guys so much. If you actually stuck with us and listened to the whole thing.
Little trick, do 1.5 times speed.
I do that too.
Yeah.
Then
that way we only interrupt you for 30 minutes instead of 48.
Absolutely. But we thank you guys for tuning in. And if you want to connect with us, have any questions, we would love to take those and answer them for you. So please feel free to contact us on our various social media channels. And thanks again.
Thank you guys. Appreciate you. Please feel free to reach out, ask questions, engage. We'd love to hear from you. I got to go get on a flight. So thanks for everybody joining us, and we'll talk to you next time. Take care.